Welcome to the January Library Trustees meeting. Happy New Year, everybody. We do have a quorum. First thing on the citizen speak, and I do not see any citizens here, so we'll just move right on. Secretary's report. Did everyone have a chance to review the secretary's report? Any questions or discussion?
Move the secretary's report.
So moved. No, I
mistake.
can't because I wasn't here, sorry.
And that's my mistake, so I corrected it. I had Hyacinth here
Yeah.
and not here, so I just took her
So
out
you've
being
updated
here.
them.
Yes,
Perfect.
I did.
Can I have a second
So
other
wait,
than
wait,
ice?
With this correction.
Chris has done the motion to correct, remove Chris' correction. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
You can't log in?
No. It's perfect, just now.
Try it. One more time.
I bring paper, I don't pass those computers.
I know.
Yeah, somebody's working in his office all day, concerned. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All set?
I'm fine.
All right. Moving on to the report of the building committee, and I think we have a discussion around the parking lot update in your packets. I do, there's a lot of information. That has been discussed thus far, and thank you, Chris, for being the spearhead of all that.
Co-authored with Wills. It's been there all the way.
If you'd like to lead us in the discussion.
Sure.
that'd be Great.
You called Will earlier, since I only have 10 minutes minus the other building discussion, I'll be very brief. And you guys can ask a lot of questions if you want, but. So you have in your packet the original public forum that we did in June, I think it was June, for those of you that didn't make it. And also you have the latest document that we got, which was the estimates that we paid for. So we authorized some money to split with them, pick the development costs. And then you have a little spreadsheet, which is basically a summary of everything we've ever done related to parking.
I love the spreadsheet. Thank you.
So,
Chris.
Yeah,
So just highlight, so we explored, the options, we did the public forum, then we continued on with MPIC. With MPIC, we came up with two potential new options, which was some town hall parking. And then putting some development on top of that, potential parking lot at Canton Ave. And then we have the development estimates that if you can read them, you're lucky, because they're like, they need interpretation and don't even try to read them. So, we'll go right ahead, but I think they need a lot of,
I did keep going saying,
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah,
there's
they're-
a chart. Oh, there's the chart.
and so out of that, we created, like I said, I created this summary, which has the characteristics of each of the options, and then also how each of those options aligns with our library needs as we met them. So basically, our next steps are to meet with you guys, and if you want to go through those development estimates, or you have any other really super detailed questions that I can't answer, we will schedule another meeting and have Cheryl come to guide us, because she can interpret those development estimates if you really want, but and certainly, feel free to say if you need to have more questions answered, but otherwise, our next steps are really to meet with the select board to kind of review this final spreadsheet. We probably have a couple little tweaks to it maybe. And get their feedback on it. And if that's positive, like it was last time, then I think the next step might be then to prepare an article for town meeting to create a library parking building committee. So, depending on which option you go
Would be
forward,
for the town to vote on to have their committee?
to have
Okay.
a committee, yeah. If you guys have other thoughts, but I guess that's where I thought, if we go with some of these big options, we're gonna need some expertise to go forward.
Okay.
And MPIC is not the people to do that. They did help us to get through where we are. Certainly not any of their qualifications to go with that, so. Similar to the library building committee that we had, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, probably do something similar to that. And then have that group go forward with more details on where we should go
Is that
Is there
mean
any
any of the money?
Can we interrupt for
Yeah.
just a minute? So Sarah's stopping by to say hello, but and I'm sorry to interrupt this, but she's in between programs because she's constantly on the run. But I told Jim beforehand that we had just a special announcement to make, and I want Sarah to make the special announcement.
Yes, hi, everybody. I just
Hi.
wanted to let you know that, you all sent Tori and I to a conference in September. We went to Denver and, for the National Institute for, Children's Librarians, and, we had a great time, and thank you so much for doing that. And, before that conference, I went to an event called the Morris Seminar that I applied to. I think I told you all about this, and it's about, they teach people how to be on awards committees. And I left that feeling very excited about that work, but not really sure where I should go from there. Because I don't have a lot of experience doing that kind of work. But I figured out where I'm gonna go because I got an email last week. I've been asked to be the administrative assistant for the 2026 Newberry Committee.
Oh, nice.
Which means that I will be a non-voting member of that committee, but I will get to be privy to all their discussions, and I can't tell you anything about it. It's shrouded in mystery.
You're not gonna leave your job, are you?
But I thought I wanted to tell you all about that because it's certainly an honor for me, but it is also an honor for our library. So
That's awesome.
yes,
Nice.
my term starts. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
thanks very much. So I'll know who's gonna win before anybody
Or
else.
anyone else.
It's super exciting because now like she reads all the books anyway, so at
Yeah.
least now she might be getting some copies of them
I'm
and.
not 100% sure, but I think they send me the
Yeah.
books like everyone else.
Yes.
And it's hundreds of books that are about to show up at my house. I told my children they're not allowed to come home because the rooms are gonna be full of books.
Yeah.
So, yes.
You go from how many to the one winner?
it's like, it's over 400 books that
Oh,
they
wow.
send me. And committees, they make their own rules, like, they'll say you have to give it a minimum of 50 pages or whatever, you know. So when I meet the committee, I'll find out what their parameters are, but
Nice.
yes,
So a non-voting member, so you just get to provide advice on what you read? and-
Well, it's more that I'm managing like the data collection for the committee. So
Okay.
basically keeping track of all the books that everyone gets sent and who got them and who didn't and all of this. But then also keeping track of their voting, I believe, because they all nominate different titles and throw out different titles and all of this. So I'll
Cool. That's
fund the
very cool.
spreadsheets for me.
Yeah, she's a conductor this year.
Yes.
Of the whole show.
Yes,
Nice.
Yeah.
but the way it's been explained to me is that this is a direct pipeline
Right.
to being a voting member of a committee yourself. And the person who filled this role this past year is serving on the 2026 Caldecott committee. So
Oh,
So you're paying your dues.
I am, and I'm very, very excited about it. So
That's great.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you
No,
all.
no.
Bill and I thought you might want to know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So-
And when does this start?
January 31st.
yeah.
So, yes,
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
stay
Nice.
tuned.
That's great.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
I am going to go run a book club now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
That's
Awesome.
great. Good news.
Yeah, it's a
You should
big
do
deal. There's
A
only like.
newspaper article on her.
Well, so we were
yeah.
talking about
Picture
that,
of her.
and we'll get back to parking, but yeah, there's only like 6 or 8 people on these committees, there's only
Mhm.
one of her that runs the committees.
Mhm.
She's been trying to do this for a long time. And had gotten to a point where she was thinking about stopping trying to get it, but then she had this breakthrough over the past year with the Morris seminar and all, and so she's very, very excited about it, and we're all excited for her. We thought we would try to do a newspaper article towards the end when they're about to announce it, so it will.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because the Newberry will be in the news at the same time, we thought we'd do something about it then.
Mhm.
Because she doesn't want the reporter asked, well, what are the best books right now? Because she
Yeah,
thinks
yeah.
she's good by the rules. So, yeah, we're all really happy for her, but yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. So,
I thought she was gonna resign.
I know.
You take any job where?
So this is being recorded, and Sarah, I apologize if anybody does watch the recording of this. She came into my office the day she found out, and she was crying, so I thought something terrible had happened, but it was just terrible in a good way. It was a really emotional and a really exciting day for her, so, but not resigning, so.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah,
no,
that's great.
Exciting news.
Yeah, so. Sorry to steal the thunder of
That's-
parking, but we have
fine.
to sneak her into
Thunder is, yeah.
programs.
Back to
We'll
parking.
wait for Cindy, or
Should we
should
wait?
just step out for a minute, or?
It's a real
She's right back.
feather in the cap for the Milton Public Library to
no,
have her on
and
that
these are-
committee.
These are the kinds of programs and events that trustees support staff going to, so it's a direct
Yeah.
result of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. So anyways, those are kind of the steps. I am gonna try to interpret for you the development costs of options, A, B, and option C on Highland Street. One thing just to let you know, if you did try to read that document is based on union workers, which we don't typically do for this kind of work. So non-union estimates is what I'm gonna give you, and again, it's kind of a, it's an estimate, but option A, would be about 13 to 13.5 to 15 million. As opposed to, I think it had like 25 million in there. Option B would be about 3 to 3.5 million. So option A is a parking lot on the Canton Ave space with something above. We're not sure what, affordable housing, office space,
Do
a
we have to pay
cafe,
all of it?
whatever.
Who pays for that? Does some of it come out of our funding and, or this is all town?
Did pay for what?
If you go with option A, B, or C,
We haven't even gotten anywhere near funding.
okay,
Like
we're just
that's-
at the study phase.
Yep,
Yeah.
you'll see in the characteristics,
Yeah.
there's a column which says funding sources.
Mhm.
And those are lists of some of the, we think, funding sources we could use. So
Okay,
we don't have any, we're not asking for money. That's
Okay.
a really important point to take away, because we keep getting comments or pushbacks that, oh, we're looking to do an override. Oh, we like this, but we don't have any money. We're not
Mhm.
asking anyone for money right now. So
okay.
not to say we won't at some point, but we're not. We're not even anywhere close to asking for money.
Mhm.
So option B is just a parking lot alone. And when I say alone, it would still probably look something like some of those beautiful portrayals that Cheryl included in that public document. You know, it covers up some of the parking, and it can actually be a, not a lovely, but a very nice looking building that, you're not ashamed of or whatever. And C is the Highland Street option for those of you. So that's a parking lot down at the end of Canton Ave, more on Highland Street, just an open parking lot. So, and that estimate is about 600,000 to 700,000. So I really would like you to all look at this if you haven't, because the I attached colors to the whether it meets or partially meets or doesn't meet our at all, or things at all. And then I indicated the challenges. So there could be more that you might want to add, or you may not agree with them. And if you don't, I'd like to know your thoughts on that. But basically there isn't, the only one that would meet all of our needs is adding a parking garage right next door here, like probably like a 5-story. By the time you did the go around, which you'd have to have over and over to go up the ramps and room for the ramps and everything, you'd have to, the number of parking spots out there would be reduced by, I don't know, 10 to 20. And then you'd have to go up. So we'd have a lovely, garage right next door to our beautiful building. And we talked about that at these meetings.
Yeah.
And as you'll see, even though it is green all the way, under the challenges, there were many reasons why we all first said no to it. Haven't really got any formal feedback from anybody else. The BID, that's the hospital parking, so it doesn't really meet, anything at all, except maybe the safety, so, the build on or off-street parking at the Reedsdale is totally like off the table, and that was quite a while ago due to, a review by the Conservation Committee. And number 5 is expand the parking at Town Hall. So the suggestion was that maybe we could piece together parking from several different areas to make up the 40 rather than building anything. So we could use, so they're looking at a possibility of building, adding some additional spaces at Town Hall, like widening the spot where the fire trucks would come right out, widening that street a little and making some more formal parking spots there. People park there now, but it's not formal, but add some there. So we did a lot of, the town planner did a lot of counts, current counts of the staff and who's there and how often they're there in the building or whatever, and it was kind of based on that. So the last option on this is to combine expand parking at the town hall with like either an option A or B, which would be let's use some of the church parking over here and some over here to make it up. And it would be, new construction to build the town hall, but and even though it could meet the 40, maybe the 50, it couldn't meet it really at any time in place that we'd like it. And the only way to, so you'd be telling somebody, okay, we're gonna have a program on Tuesday night and we're expecting a lot of people. So if you can't find any parking here, then go across the street and go to this church. And if you can't find any there, go to the other church. And if you can't find any there, go to the town hall. So
I've always been able
Probably
to find
needs-
parking space. No matter how packed it is, I've
Today
always been
was
able
hard.
to
Today
find
was hard.
parking space.
So anyways, I need to add probably some more challenges because I didn't in there to that combination.
Right.
Because it really should identify, that would be one of the biggest challenges is to really, how do you, and that space, as you look, if you look at the form. These on night and there's
Right.
other spots during the day and these other here. So there's no consistency. And every time you wanted to use the spots, we would have to, go through with them and see if we could use them and when could we use them. So it just seems not really, very usable. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, the only things I'll add are, we've been having this conversation with the master planning committee now for maybe it's been 2 years. So it's good that we're getting to the end.
2 years,
It took some time to get to this point where we've got these estimates. We did our homework on what times of day. We've been trying to take some pictures out the window, especially on mornings between like 10, 11, 12 o'clock when we have multiple children's programs going on. People making interesting spaces to park in that aren't really parking spaces because it's so full. One of the byproducts of this whole conversation has been that the addition of the crosswalk with the flashing lights from town hall to the library, that's a couple of months old now. That's because people have already been parking at town hall to come to programs that are overfilled, but so kind of little steps here and there. But yeah, we really tried to listen to some of the feedback from June, from the presentation. We had some follow-up meetings with different people involved in different agencies or groups in town, including the hospital. So Chris really, it was 2 years worth of information condensed down into these two spreadsheets, the best we could do, and keeping in mind that a lot of the times, like one of the parking space options, like Chris said, was the one on Highland, which is down by the police station, which might be an inexpensive solution to put a parking lot. But if you're pushing a stroller with 2 kids, if you have any issues walking distances up steep hills, it's not a solution for the library. So we try to keep all of those different things in mind along the way. But yeah.
Option 6, I know, which is the most expensive, has a revenue component though.
I'm sorry, which
Has
one?
option 6 has a revenue.
That's a good point, right?
Being the building above.
Six.
So
The Canton app,
Yes,
So Canton Ave A, the developer, that's the one 13.5 to 15 million?
yes, it has a.
Oh, is there a
revenue. Tax.
So,
Possibly.
yes, because, and this kind of gets to what Cindy was asking, but we're not there yet. Some of these solutions, so if we go for not just a parking lot, but a parking lot with a building on top, it could be potentially that a developer pays a certain percentage of that entire project, which would include part of the library parking part of that. Or if the town pays for it and rents it to a either commercial or whatever, there would be a potential lease income for the town. Not necessarily the library, that we'd have to figure out like who owns that, right? So there are, for these larger amount building projects, there's potential other funding sources, but we're not at the point where we're officially identifying any of those. But we did have somebody come to master planning who talked about what it would entail to have somebody come in and a developer come in and do it. So,
I guess one correction to the spreadsheet, I think you added that last option of combining the expanded one. And I wouldn't agree, those are all green
Right.
meats, so I need to revisit
Okay.
that, so. Certainly the 50 to 60, it doesn't, I don't think it meets
Right.
even with all the numbers. Walkability is kind of a question, because people are gonna be walking their whole round, so I think I'd probably change some of those to yellow. So, doesn't have EV stations, so
Right.
I think that
that's
last
another
line,
part of the conversation.
sorry, is incorrectly noted as all green, so
Mhm.
I will update that.
I remember at the public meeting, there was a lot of comments about trees. Trees. Have we have any other conversations about trees since then?
We had a meeting with Alex Hasha, who's the current chair of the Climate Action Committee in town, and has also been a part of Sustainable Milton for a long time, for many years. You know, his background, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he's a scientist, and he's a pretty smart guy. And we met with him, and he said, well, first of all, I just want you to know that the Climate Action Committee is not the kind of committee that votes on yes or no, we like this or we don't like it. That's not our purpose. I'm hoping that, I haven't seen the goals that they've set for it, but he goes, but the goals of this committee is to lay out the town's goals for meeting with the climate action by 2050. It's got nothing to do with, yes, we agree with taking trees down for a library, or no, we don't. So he said, we would never weigh in on any of those kind of things. But he said, personally, I am, you know, certainly you can't call him a tree hugger, but he certainly is somebody who's extremely environmentally conscious. But he said, but I would never just say, never build because you're cutting a tree down. Like,
Right.
that's just ridiculous to think that our whole future is never going to cut a tree down, and we should all try to never cut a tree down in our lives. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. You know, so in theory, he said he did support the Canton Ave option. He's not sure personally whether he would if it came to town meeting this thing because of the money. He's like, I'm not sure this is the top priority. I think the override is the money, and I want a school and whatever. But, you know, again, we're not here to vote on this one way or the other, but and we did have also Pete Jackson come. I think you guys were updated on that. So he came and toured the area before we actually had the public forum.
Right.
And, you know, he's pretty familiar with types of trees and the quality of trees. And he just said that within the area that we were looking at the time, with, if that's really the footprint that we decide, that there were probably about 4 trees that need to come down anyways, and they should come down because they're dangerous or they're, you know, diseased or whatever. And then there's probably maybe about the same amount that are really good trees that you're gonna take down, like some big ones, but again, he felt like that was something that you replace either further on down on Canton Ave or in another part of town. So,
Yeah, he said less than 100 years. It's mostly new growth, those trees.
Yeah.
It was a field less than 100 years ago, so.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of the trees over there are like I forget what the kind was that he said,
Yeah.
but we have you know, somewhere else. They're the kind that grow up in a year or whatever. They're not like some really long-term valuable
Right,
oak trees, you know, most of them.
right.
And you could move the footprint a little bit, he said, possibly to
Yeah,
protect some more of the ones, but, you know, again, that's to be decided at some point in the future.
And the other thing, I guess, this is, none of this again is written in stone, but the idea of building the parking lot kind of into the space, not just being a flat footprint, would save some of the total area, so it could potentially save some of the trees. There are different ways, creative ways to look at it. Yeah.
Well, I personally don't like the parking, like the park lot, structure out here, so.
You know what?
I wouldn't wanna do a structure out here.
Oh,
Garage.
right here.
Garage.
Right.
I mean, I think we took a vote on that, or we talked about it, but that was before we had this current committee, so. I mean. I guess I'd like to know the feeling about everyone on this committee about building a garage, since it does have green, that's the one that highly meets it. I don't know if we
We
have.
might have missed it, so.
And the cost that we have on that one is a per space cost. I think Cheryl had in the package a total cost, but I don't know if I.
The issue Cheryl identified, well, two issues that Cheryl identified with building a deck here. One was based on current, whatever zoning and whatever it may be. You could build a ramp going up to create a second level, but it couldn't go around. It was like, she had drawings of it because of how close the turnaround is to the street, like you would go up to the end and then have to do a K-turn and turn around to go back down. There would be no way to circulate back around in that. So she thought that created more confusion and more danger, and you would actually lose spaces in creating the curves to go up to a second floor. And then the other issue is you'd have to either close the building during construction or have some sort of busing system to an off-site parking lot. So it's it would be not impossible, but very complicated.
And I think,
We stopped.
I mean, I put
talking
that it
about
would be inaccessible on here, and I think we determined that because underneath the current
Yeah.
parking lot are HVAC systems
That's right,
and
too.
like serious systems that
Yeah.
run the library.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna dig in there, the library will not be open. So we will be shutting down the library if we go with that option.
Right.
And we're not even sure what, so we'd be digging under as well as up. So-
Right. Yeah, we looked at that for a couple of months worth of meetings.
So I'm not looking for a vote, but it would be really helpful to have some kind of a consensus if you want to vote, or what do you all think about it? Because if we go to the select board, they're gonna want to know what the trustees think, so, we can go around and you can each give your own opinions or thoughts on these. Do you have a priority if you had one choice, or do you have some that you never want, or, I don't know how you want to handle it, but it would be really helpful to go forward to have a good sense of the committee.
I personally like 6 and 7,
What's that?
option A and B, so.
The
Can't
leasing
have.
option.
Yes.
That's my personal.
I just want to say, Chris, thank you for all the work you've put into this. Really,
Thank you.
I put a lot of work into it.
You go around the table there.
Sure, yeah. Mike?
I'm with, Jen's gotta say, well, Jen, I'm a little leery of like a giant parking garage structure. And I'm sympathetic to 6 and 7 as well. Are we taking a vote on what option we would most prefer, or we're just having more of a discussion right now?
I think it's just more a discussion. I guess I'd like to know, are there any of these, so you're saying you think 2 is out of the question, but which ones would you feel would support our needs and you'd be in favor of?
I would like a little more time to think about it, but
Okay.
in terms of what we've discussed so far and reviewing this today.
Yeah.
6 and 7 are interesting.
Okay. I don't want to put anyone on the spot if they're
I
not
like the
ready.
Canton
to answer,
Avenue.
so.
That's 6 and 7.
Can't now, 6 and 7.
Okay,
Not so big on that garage out here for
No.
all those reasons. I don't think it's really viable
yeah.
in so many ways.
That's
Yeah,
6 and
same.
7.
You too, I see. Okay. Cindy?
I do like 6 and 7, but I was wondering about the Highland, if we were to take a garage and we weren't thinking just about library, because it is far away from the library, but if we thought of this whole area as a civic center.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh,
So low,
if
I'm hard of hearing.
If we thought of the whole area as a civic center with the fire station and the city hall, town hall and the library, then a garage in that corner for employees, a parking deck as opposed to a lot, could be where the people who work here from 9 to 5 work, and it might free up space for the visitors.
Okay, so
That's Highland.
Highland,
so you're suggesting the Highland option?
If we, I'm saying, yes, 6 and 7 makes sense to me. I'm saying before we shut down 8, if
Uh-huh.
we thought about a parking deck
Mhm.
there, and we thought of this area as a city center or town center, that parking deck could supply employee parking for those 3 buildings, right? Fire department, town hall, and library.
If there was a garage, you're saying on Highland.
Yeah.
So
That
the
would free
proposal
up
that's
parking.
there is just an open lot.
Yeah.
It's not a garage. We didn't look into a garage to support all of that parking. That would be a lot of parking and a lot of garage, and we didn't look at that.
Mhm.
Just, not to say we can't, because we
Mhm.
certainly could, but most of the reasons why Highland was removed was for us, the walkability and the ability, like there's just patrons, many of our patrons, young and old, wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
use
that's
that.
why I'm saying it's
Um,
not for a patron for town hall or
It's for
fire,
staff.
it's for staff if we allotted it as a
Mhm.
staff parking.
Okay,
Then someone comes, parks in the morning, and they're not blocking parking in any of those 3 areas for the 8 hours of the day.
so what other 3 areas are you talking about?
Fire station, town hall, and library.
How many
Well-
slots would that open up? Is it viable in terms of how many slots
So
would be open up by something like
there'd
that?
be a lot of moving pieces in this one. I understand what Cindy's saying. So
Yes,
if we turn town hall, so a lot of town hall employees park at town hall and fire station employees park at town hall and at the fire station. I think what Cindy's suggesting is that we, all of those or most of those people would park on Highland Ave.
right.
So then, including the library, so that would free
Mhm.
up, 15, 12, whatever spaces at the library for users. Town hall, I couldn't tell you the number, it would fill 30, I don't know, but all the spaces at town hall. Town hall already has a parking issue for residents who want to come and do town hall business, because it's
Right.
chock full.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
Chock full.
Exactly.
So, so that would free up potentially spaces for people to use town hall as well. So it's something we can talk about. The only issue is staff could park down there. I don't know how enforceable it will be.
I was about to ask.
I don't know how enforceable it would be. I'd have to talk to the town administrator. I'm sure there would be some sort of union conversation around it for every, I'm not talking library, I'm talking the town.
but maybe just to add, one thing that's not in here is the challenges with even just a small amount of parking there, like an open parking lot. One of the
Mhm.
reasons why it was totally removed
Mhm.
was because the entrance and exit would be on Highland Ave. And there is a memory care unit being built up the street. And just very slightly down the street on Canton Ave is a new 40B complex coming in.
Mhm.
So the whole light
does back.
that's there's not really a light there to support any of that.
Mhm.
So to add all this more parking going in and out of that road was one that the MPIC, everyone on there just was like, this is not a doable option. Based on the amount of parking. So you're suggesting to add even more than that,
Well,
again.
what I was trying to suggest is if it's not used for the visitors of these 3 buildings.
Right,
Then that peak load would be in the morning and at the end of the day, like at shift changes or whatever, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be all day long, people shuttling in and out of that garage. That's why I thought it would be a good idea. It's not unlike mall workers or hospital workers where they have their own parking area
Yeah.
to allow
Yeah.
the users
Yeah,
or the
right.
visitors to have the primary spots, but I don't know the union.
Yeah,
People getting annoyed with having to walk over to Highland.
Yeah.
it would happen.
Mhm.
Well,
I'm
it'd
not
be
saying
hard
with
to think
all,
the
but-
firefighters would agree to move out of their parking lot that was just brand new built right next door to them, but, you know.
I'll bring it up to town
could ask them.
administrator, just
Mhm.
ask what he thinks about that.
Mhm.
But I would anticipate at least some pushback.
I'm sure there's pushback. I'm just saying, when you have a kid who works at the mall. they're
Yeah, no,
told at
I
Christmas
I
time,
know.
don't you dare park in
Yeah, I
here, you
know.
need to park
Yeah,
over there. right?
absolutely.
So,
Could I jump in on your question, which is for us to comment on the things that you've presented for us here today?
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
I've really strongly am against the idea of tearing up the present parking lot and building something on top of it.
Yeah.
One, it's not that old to begin with. Two, I also was going to ask, isn't there a whole bunch of stuff underneath it?
Yes,
Yeah.
And so that seems high effort, low reward. I think development of site 6 and 7 has significant upside for helping modernize Milton in general, getting us parking and the potential to further develop this area, which it needs to. And I remembered, I don't remember what it was, but there was someone presented to us the pictures at one point of the field less than 100 years
Yeah,
ago.
they
Just
did.
remind us that
Yeah.
this is not old growth forest. This is not valuable trees. It was a field
Right.
before. And it's a small footprint and there's very small carbon seclusion benefit for the amount of trees there. Much more important would be to put in 10 EVs.
Yes.
The amount of CO2 positive gain we would get by putting in a parking garage with EVs in it would far be a more positive impact than the 100 trees that are on that site. So I would be strongly in favor of 6 or 7 for multiple reasons of how it would contribute to this area.
Yeah.
To the library, but also to the development and modernization of this part of town, which I think still needs it.
I didn't get.
Can I go back to you,
Yeah,
Cindy, I
I
guess,
didn't
just
finish.
because of light of what he said in the beginning, which was based on the options here, do you have any opinion, or are you wanting us to go explore a whole new option before you weighed in on any?
Well, I'm
thoughts?
trying to suggest 8, okay, I didn't finish on my comments on 6 and 7,
Okay.
but going back to 8. If that derails everything to suggest a garage, even the 40 spaces as is on 8. If they were allotted to employees as opposed to calling it library parking, it's not changing this option, it's just saying how it would be used.
Mhm.
On 6 and 7. When I go to Lexington or to Brookline or places like that. Around the town center, there are plenty of parking lots and we don't have that, and it makes our life a little harder than going to some of these other towns where the library and town hall might share a parking lot. It might be closer to one building or another, but people are used to walking a block or two to get to their car. I think we're spoiled here that
Yeah.
we expect it to be right at our front door for each building, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like 6 and 7. I didn't get around to it because you guys were all talking about 6 and 7. I think we should try to get the tax revenue. And it might employ 5 or 6 people in this town if there's a new dentist or a doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I'll say, the town
Or
hall,
daycare.
town hall people want a coffee shop or something.
Mm-hmm.
But anything, yeah, you're right. It's new. It could have those benefits as well. And part of the reason we started talking with master planning was we thought the library's not the only place that needs parking. Town hall needs parking.
Right.
And we need housing.
But we need housing too.
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, I like 6, 7, like everyone else. I'd like to just keep 8 on the table.
And leave it.
8 on the table. If no one else is voting for it, I'll pick that one just to keep.
It's
it alive.
amazing how people run and walk around town, but when it comes to the library.
They need to park on the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay.
I was ready to go after Paul and say whatever he just said sounds great. No, I mean, I also, have to say, I think when we look at this, it is kind of behoove us to think about town hall and how we can expand some parking on the sides there as well, because I think it's dangerous
Right.
for the firefighters and with like the trucks coming out. I've seen people park illegally and just be mindful of like, if you're gonna do some additional parking, I think we need to just think about everything in this area, and what we can do for everybody that works here and comes here. So.
Yeah. Comes to the library, you're saying?
No,
Or
so just the town
Town
center, if you wanna call it the town center, but
Yeah.
where the hall is, the fire, like, if. You know, even if it's a, small amount, I do think a couple extra space, the town should look into the town hall as well. I think they're,
I mean,
It's
it can
dangerous.
only help that gazebo in summer when they have their events there.
Right.
To give,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. They should look at it and hopefully they will, but they're gonna have to get out there and strum up
yes,
some support to spend the money to build it, because it's gonna cost money, not
Yeah.
as much as any of these other things, but they're gonna have to come up with the money, the town will. So I guess when I looked at it that way, we're the trustees and we're here to look for parking for the library.
Right.
And yeah, we would probably also support them to do that, but that's kind of not what I see our goal here, so.
And is there any, like, the fact that you're giving a price of 13 to 15 million, the school is what, 200 million? Like,
This what?
200 million to do a school versus 13 to 15 to build this small building with parking below it? Like, the scale is so different. Will voters have to pick one or the other, or is it like, here's the big school and then there's this little, while we're at it?
Well, we're not going anywhere to vote anything right now. I think we're not asking for any money. I mean, if let's say we looked at 6 and 7 and you got a committee together and they might if they found a developer, then the parking may be, it may be paid for. So I don't want to say it's gonna cost anybody anything and, like I said, some of the funding sources I think we put on here, there's different, options for that. There's affordable housing grants, there's Mass Works grants, there's a lot of places that we may be able to try to get some money. In addition to a developer, and then we have building funds ourselves that are left from, the original building project that we had.
So the only thing you're putting the article is for the right for this group to become a building
Building
committee.
committee, yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
The only thing that's the article is asking for is so that we can have a building committee. There's no other decision to be made.
I mean, if that's what we do, I'm just suggesting that as
Yeah.
possibly the next step. If we all agree on it and the select board, feels like they kind of have to be on board because they own the land.
Yeah.
Then to me, that makes like the next best sense, step.
So the next step is. to meet
Is
with
to
the select
form a
board.
committee that focuses only on that. And that's their job.
So, excuse me.
Yep.
So, I mean, for me, it seems like, why aren't we working with the select board? Why aren't we joining with them? Because that can be their lot too and our lot. And for funding purposes, I think it would be very helpful if, you don't go with the developer. I don't know if you looked into all that. Probably.
We've met with the select board and kept
Okay.
them up to date on this, and they're the ones who suggested the master planning committee look at the town center and for us to work with them and then to come back to them with what we're doing. And to Cindy's point, I think the select board, this is a library priority to get more parking. For the select board, they're looking at the schools, they're looking at the MBTA Act, they're looking at a lot of things. So the parking lot's one more thing. So we're much more hyper focused on it. So that's why we're pushing it not faster than the select board, but like we have more hands pushing right now. And that's why we're getting geared up to see them again.
Yeah.
But yes, we want them involved.
I mean, we've gone through their needs, they've gone through them, I should say,
Right.
and they're saying they don't need more. That they
The
could.
town
use-
hall has said that.
Town hall has said they don't need more, so they could use this extra space if they widened that space where the fire trucks come out. But we've offered many times,
Mhm.
fire station could use it, the town. they're not really interested in,
Right.
I don't feel like there's any real interest in joining with us to say, let's make this a municipal lot and let's, join together. I won't say we have gotten that much support.
They've supported us in doing it ourselves.
Yeah, going forward to the
Yeah.
next step, which is
Yes.
where we went, which was really the developer. So the
Right.
next step was to really get a developer or talk to some developers or get some ideas of what the cost would be to do this. So that's kind of where we are. So it'd be all nice if we all were on the same page, but everyone is.
Just
Got
to
different
jump a
ideas.
couple of steps.
What's up?
How much funding do we have in our treasury for the building?
In our what?
In our building committee, the leftover money, is that 5 million or is
No.
that 2? How much?
No, it's like
No.
500,000.
Oh, okay,
It's
so
not
none of
really-
these options could be covered.
Not
by-
completely covered.
Okay,
No,
got it.
no, but I mean, like the other building, project that happened, the foundation supported and came in, so I think. Maybe Paul could help, but if there was a project and there was a plan and there was some reason and you had money. To me, that would be a time when maybe the foundation might start helping about raising money
Right.
from the town to
Mhm.
support our needs as well, I mean, we can't take all of our money, all of our trustee funds.
Yeah,
and put it
I
in
was
it,
just
so.
thinking that, I was just thinking. like
Just
building
to
committee.
remind us all, we've kept the foundation in sleep mode,
Right.
Yeah.
waiting for this exact moment. And that's why we don't really need to talk about revenue right now. We have to get it far enough that it gets political support and approval. And part of it will be how are we gonna pay for it? And that's where we'll come in and say, here are suggestions on how we'll pay for it. One of it will be, we're gonna raise money like we did when we renovated the entire library. And so that's abstract into the future, but we have a significant tool ready to go to do that. And our track record, we just raised $60,000 just with their annual appeal, is very strong to be able to say that we could do such a thing. Especially if there was multiple inputs, such as development. So it is very feasible down the road, whatever that will look like.
Mhm.
It's this political step here that really is the most important. And that's why Chris is asking us, like, what do we feel about this? Are we all thumbs up? Because if we're divided, then it's not going anywhere. If we're thumbs up and feel like this is really viable, there's really, really high upside for this, let's push it forward. Then that's now, we have this political arm ready to help move it forward.
What happens if, so the parking committee is created and then they go with an option that's maybe not even listed here, and I get that the NPC has done work, not at all, catching anything on that work,
That
but
they find another option, you said?
yeah, or if they chose one that, if we're sitting here like, oh, we have consensus on an option, I understand we're seeing the political will, but I feel like we would just kind of look a little dumb in that regard if this parking committee, which I think is a good idea, is like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I mean, do you see like sort of the discrepancy there? Or-
Well, I
I see
think the committee would be created with specific guidelines.
Okay.
Your job is to go forward on developing a parking garage on Cannon Ave
Okay,
with development or without. Maybe after they again, see if they can find a development, but their job isn't to go back in and re-explore all these and find another one. I don't think that would be the point. I think it would be, we got pretty much consensus here. We got the okay from the select board to move forward.
Mhm.
And we would move forward and create an article specifically to focus on these. We would,
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, no, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, that was what I was envisioning. You guys, I'm not, this isn't my decision totally, but that's what I wouldn't say, okay, let's create a committee and start this all over again and go find your own, go explore other things.
I appreciate you clarifying that, I think, too.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I appreciate you clarifying that, thank you for that. And I think, particularly just bigger picture, we are the elected boards of I think it is in our purview to say, look, I guess I'm going back on what I said, my question, but hey, we want to pursue this avenue committee and hash it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, that makes sense.
okay. So I guess that being said, do you have any other thoughts or you want to wait for a while more? Do you have some, because you said you weren't ready to really weigh in on
It was more, so, like, I understand that you and FBC have worked on this diligently. So it's more so that I have not like watched every NPC meeting and
no.
know all the nitty gritty of each one of those options. I am deferring to you.
Yeah.
As my fellow board member on this.
Okay, thank you.
But
Well,
in
did we hear
terms,
from Jamie? Do we make it all the way around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think the discussion has been good and, I think, yeah, has everyone spoken then?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think everyone has said 6 or 7.
sounds like we're in agreement.
Well, I said
And
8.
And
I
you
said,
said
don't forget 8, but I agree with 6 and 7.
6, 7, or 8, okay. And you haven't said any one of them, so that's all. I'm just wondering
haven't.
if you haven't. I thought you said you
Oh,
wanted
no,
some more
I
time
said I
to
was
think about
most-
it, so,
No, I said I would, obviously, I'm not expert in each one of those.
yeah,
But based off of what I do have, my knowledge that I have of this so far.
Yeah.
That I was most sympathetic to 6 and 7.
okay,
Yeah.
great. I mean, if there's more information that you guys think you need, or you want, or you don't have here, that would help you feel more confident, so that, that would help you make, just feel more comfortable saying which option you're looking at, so. That's all.
So next step is to meet with the select board and then do an article.
Yeah, I think we have another meeting or so with MPIC. We're gonna
Okay.
refine this a little more, so.
Sounds great.
I just heard today, so if you guys could read this and see anything else, that would be helpful. Cause I just saw an error with that green one all at the bottom. That doesn't make sense, so. And I think there's probably some other things we can add to some of the other comments that you guys made that was helpful, so.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, yeah,
It's a nice 10 minutes, thank you.
yeah, sorry.
I deferred my part to her.
Thank you, thanks. Will told me I really was told I could have an hour.
Give her an award for all the work she put into it. For these years now.
Moving on, cleaning update, who's good?
That's just a follow-up on the money approved at the last meeting. We were waiting for the new year. We've talked to a couple of companies. We're just trying to figure out the laundry list, so we're moving ahead with it.
Very good. Moving on to budget and finance report on the fiscal 26 budget discussions. How are they going, Will?
I will be brief about this. The town administrator presented a potential $9.5 million override scenario to the select board last week. The $9.5 million override would be very close to a level service budget. There would be additions on the school side that I'm less familiar with, and minimal additions on the town side. Some of this would be taking programs that started during COVID and ARPA and funding them with the town budget, including a social worker and another kind of clinical worker at the police department. But it's not an override like we used to think of it, where you'd add several positions around on the town side. It's pretty minimal. The majority of that $9.5 million override is funding school requests. The initial town government side budget was about a 4% increase over last year, and the school budget was closer to a 9% increase over last year. So it's a $9.5 million override proposed to the select board. They have not said yes, but they have not said no. I assume that number will change. I do think that there will be an override scenario going forward. I think that it's been about 8 years since the town did an override. We used to do them every 3 years on average. Before that, well, the last one was 8 years ago, and I think it was 5 years between that one and the one before. But before that, it was closer to every 2 or 3 years, and they were much smaller increments, 2, 3, 4 million. So I think an override will go forward. I don't know what the number will be. I don't think it'll be 9.5 million. I think it'll be less. I've been asked by the town administrator to attend the next select board meeting, which is Tuesday, the 28th, because he wants to have a couple department heads talk about what will happen if there isn't some sort of an operational override to continue level services. But we don't know. We need more numbers and data before we can say exactly what that would look like. So there's nothing definite, but this is the most override talk we've had. It's the first time I think an actual override's been presented to the select board in many years, even though we've talked about it in town. So there's no meetings with the warrant committee scheduled, because I think they're waiting for more information about this as well. I'll let people know as I have any updates. I imagine if there'll have to be some sort of scenario where there's budget cuts, so we would have to look at that. We've created, the library's created impact statements in the past, which usually start with, closing hours on either Saturdays or Sundays. But that's something we'll have to review depending on the amount of the cuts that may or may not hypothetically come forward out of this process. So, I'll let people know as soon as we get more information. We have a department head meeting this Wednesday, but even then, they don't think they'll have numbers because the select board still has to do some work on it.
So without an override, we have to cut hours or it's a potential?
It's just a potential,
Okay.
just a potential. I don't know enough to say that. We've, knock on wood, we've been able to avoid that all but once in the last 10 years where we had to cut back a few Sundays.
Mhm.
Not all of them, but a couple of them, so. Yeah, I'm still pretty optimistic about the process. I don't, if we have minor cuts, I'm hoping we could absorb them other ways, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In your packet, I think there was a report on capital requests. Any other information on that, John?
So the capital improvement committee said 2 meetings and so the news on that is bad because
Yeah.
the original estimate, so the idea is the good news, I guess, is that the Mass School Building Association is looking at, or agency is looking at possibly funding a new school that everybody agrees that we need. But in the meantime, they're talking about renovating the 3rd and 4th floor of Cunningham. And the original estimate was $2 million. And last Thursday, we discussed the fact that it's going to $5 million. So which is just gonna, Richard Wells, who's still chairing the committee, is
Oh,
kind of upset. It's just gonna blow all the work we've done because, whereas we've been submitting, as you have been doing these 5-year, plans and all these departments and 5-year plans, and this is gonna blow all of that out of the water.
Blow all of it on what?
Blow it all out of the water.
Yeah.
Because it's $5 million that wasn't in any of these 5-year plans for
Yeah,
that all the departments are supposed to be submitting so that because we really have done a good job since Tom Hurley and
Right.
those people, and actually, when I first was on the warrant committee, a liaison with the capital improvement, and it never went. I mean, there was nothing to go to, but we have, done a very good job in getting,
Yeah.
departments not anywhere near what they need or want, but at least something every year, and this is just gonna knock it right out.
hasn't he been on the capital committee for? Not.
He's been chairing the committee since Mike Boney, I think,
yeah.
so.
So just. I'm sorry to get back on the subject. So if we get this school, won't they be looking at parking space too?
Well,
Looking at parking space also in new school, if we did get.
But isn't that
override
over
and
by
they
the
were
high
doing it.
school?
Yeah.
he'll
It would
be
depend, yeah.
Yeah,
part of
they're
their
looking at parking.
building project is parking
Yeah, it is.
for the employees and
Part of their
the
building
parents
project.
and.
It's a beautiful plan, but it's over by the high school.
Mhm.
It's far away. It's not.
But it's
close
part
to
of the
library.
building project itself.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just so they don't
Yeah, right, take it out. Yeah.
come here.
Thank you, John. Can we move your quarterly report to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes. Moving on, equity committee, anything to report?
I don't know, you have town initiatives, I don't know, was there anything you wanna report on?
I could talk about town initiatives. I think that our committee should start talking again about September already, so.
Yeah.
Already.
I know,
Mhm.
but we should. So we should probably come up with a time to meet, but, so town initiatives, the diversity committee of the town employee diversity committee, is hosting 5 employee engagement it's starting this Wednesday. Gonna be in the morning, we're having one at the police station, one at the fire station, one at town hall, one at DPW, and one at the library. And there's gonna be brief, introduction that there is a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee now. We've had it for a year, but at town hall, we're doing a staff survey on employee engagement. We're gonna start doing that on an annual basis. Among other things, it's, it's gonna try to track people's sense of belonging, but also what kinds of trainings work best for people, times a day, types of trainings, that kind of thing. So we've been trying to work towards this for a while. Carla, the HR director, is chairing that. I'm on it with members of the town engineering department and the health department, among others. So that's kind of the news for the townwide initiative. So it's finally happening. This is the way I feel, but everybody else will be like, oh, this is just happening. So the library event's next Thursday morning. So.
Very good.
So this is explaining that a little bit more. So you're asking employees, how can we?
Yeah, it's employee engagement, but also we're telling the employees we're gonna try to start having more employee engagement opportunities, whether it's trainings or just like luncheons or cross-department meetings. But we're also going to use it as an opportunity to start some equity and inclusion training as well. Yeah, it's a combination.
In how they work with people, the public.
Right. So some of the trainings we've had in the past, but some of the things are like working in an intergenerational workplace, but some of them are also customer service based. So that's what we're starting. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to library director's report.
All right. Do I get an hour? I just want to talk about a couple of things. Statistically, the numbers are doing well, so I'm gonna skip the statistics. I'm gonna talk about a couple of things in the building. The children's room technology is almost all set. We're just waiting for some electrical issues with the town consolidated facilities department. We got the shipping manifest or whatever from the Nooks, those study pods that we ordered several months ago, but they take 6 to 8 weeks to fabricate. Those should be coming within a week, so that will be quite the thing. I've had 2 meetings. Well, I've met with 2 groups over the last month or so to talk about noise reduction in the library. And I've gotten quotes for sound dampening using white and pink noise speakers throughout. Mostly we're just talking about the second floor space out there. That's one thing we've looked at. And the other is using, foam paneling on some of the spaces on the floor to prevent the noise coming to the second floor. And the third is where we kind of have the art left over from those, what do you call it, sun catcher things that are, or when you come up the stairs, putting a baffling like lattice matrix in there. So we're looking at some of the different options to see what we like. We would probably use state aid for it. They've all come in under 20,000, the different projects. I'm still waiting for 2 more responses. We've gone to places to like kind of see how it works or how it looks. I don't know, Cindy, if you've put in any libraries, any sound dampening stuff.
What, white and pink noise?
Yeah.
I mean, we try to do it with the panels.
You use
There's one
panels.
more thing to do, but
Yeah. Problem.
I mean, but it's probably more reliable.
The
Turn
sound.
it up and down.
Yeah. Problem with the panels is they're not pretty all the time. But maybe it would be some combination. The speakers would be, most of the speakers would be above the drop ceiling, so you wouldn't even see them. Some of them would be on the hard ceiling or walls in the big 2 stories out here. So we've done tests with it in different spots in the building. It's interesting when you get into some of the science of it. So that's a building thing we're looking into.
And there's a lot of complaining about the noise, because you have a quiet study here.
Yeah.
Those cubes.
No, it's consistent complaints. It goes up and down, the complaints. Sometimes it's based on the teens, but it's not just that. It's like people in the lobby space, so, yeah. The echoes, it just keeps echoing. As far as the town updates go, I mentioned the DEI stuff that's going on. Winter town meeting is coming up in February. The only issue that might affect the library that we mentioned last time we met was one-day liquor licenses at town buildings. I'm not sure where that is right now with the select board, but it's the kind of thing that the library would have to approve the license, and then the select board would also have to approve the license. And then talking with us and the COA, we would see it as only being for town events or library foundation or friends events. We're not getting into the, let's have a hootenanny down in the keys room. So that's that piece of it.
So did we approve to
Hootenanny.
allow to do that?
No, because we haven't seen, the warrant article yet.
From the day that the library built, that has been the issue.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something that the foundation has gone to the select board for in the past, but we
Yeah.
haven't done it in.
Yeah.
So what is the article gonna do? It's
The
gonna
article would allow one-day liquor licenses
to any town.
to any town building.
No, that would just include us.
So it would,
unless we
it's
wanted
not
to
a library
exclude us.
specific,
Okay.
yeah.
But if assuming it is approved and passed, would we need to come up with a policy or procedure?
Yeah, we would come up with a policy for it, yeah, it would be a new policy.
Because you wouldn't allow me to have my 60th birthday party down in the Keys room.
Let me pause the meeting, no, right, exactly, so like, we're not getting into having showers and, brunches with mimosas and all that kind of
And
thing.
who's proposing the article?
I believe the select board is proposing the article.
So besides us, what building?
Council on Aging is the other major building that it would affect, but I believe it would do the schools as well.
It would affect the school,
Yeah.
I don't know, those departments all support it. It seems like they would.
So the
want to
COA
ask
has-
For support before they go to town meeting and
Yeah,
have everyone say, does this department support it? No,
Right.
yes.
the COA, so the town administrator kind of pulled COA and I about it, and we had the same concerns that we wanted to be able to have the approval of the license and have as strict of regulation as we want, which would kind of limit it to, library fundraising events, or if the library wanted to do a wine tasting for the public type of event. But we were thinking once, twice, maybe 3 times a year tops, if it was ever a thing we would want to do. And then I was gonna wait for the article to come out.
The open house.
The open house, that's,
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
something
a-
that could be voted on in town meeting is that you could restrict it to certain buildings as well. I mean, if you wanted to pick it
Right.
apart.
right,
But I just thought, do we want to support it? I mean,
right.
it
That's,
seems like if we don't want to support it before they write the article
Yeah.
and assume it's all departments, we might want to say exclude the library or keep us in there and let us have our own, guidelines or whatever.
Yeah. That's a conversation. But based on, the opportunities it could afford us, if we can restrict it, I would support it for the library. The idea of a beer tasting and a wine tasting as like a regular library friends event. Is something that we see other libraries do that we can't do right now. We've looked at having friends events that were fundraisers or foundation thank you events that were fundraisers when the library's closed, but we still couldn't do it because of the liquor license thing. I think in a controlled way, it could have benefits for the library.
And I understand the one-day liquor that the library would have to approve and the select board have to approve.
Right.
I'm assuming it's you that has the authority, or does that have to come up to this board?
That would be something we'd have to figure out with the policy, yeah. Right. I mean, I think what happens so infrequently, it wouldn't be an onus if the board wanted to do it. But it also would be up to the board if they wanted to defer it. I think most of the times it would involve
Discussion with us,
something with,
with the foundation or the
Right.
friends.
Right. So, and we'd probably be able to identify the events months in advance. I think that if we had the right it's not gonna be like. You're not gonna be getting things like, oh, Jim Potter's birthday party or whatever coming before the board to discuss. So,
Otherwise, it would go to Fuller Village.
yeah,
We could always go to Fuller.
yeah. So I don't know, do we want to have a vote or a sense of the room or
What are people's thoughts?
It's been something we've been debating for all these years, ever since the library. And we've discussed it so many times. So I think I don't see anything wrong.
What was the opposition to it?
It's a slippery slope.
it's a,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a slippery,
It's
so
the
nobody wanted to
control.
go for it because the town. didn't
The word,
want
once
it.
you start to have some events, then there'd be more and
Yeah.
more. And then,
Right.
so it wasn't very rational, it was very emotional, but. So I would be very strongly in favor of it, so long as the director had
Direct.
complete control of
Yeah.
what and when.
Mhm.
That he's the gatekeeper, right? That
Yeah.
someone outside the library can't decide.
Right,
This
right.
event happens
Right.
at the library, so as long as the director has complete control of the policy and everything happens, I think it's an excellent opportunity.
I agree.
I agree as well.
So I'll ask them for the wording. I asked last week, but it wasn't ready yet, and I can share it with the board, and if there's concerns, we can we can be prepared at town meeting for it, hopefully before. The warrant committee should review it, and we haven't heard about it yet, so,
Or just add some more clarification
Right.
to the article, that's what I would think.
yeah. Yeah, we want to include,
Otherwise, people will ask all those questions.
right.
Can anybody just rent this?
Yeah, they're gonna ask all those questions no matter what.
Wine and beer.
You
Uh,
can even
bar.
get gym space, are you kidding me, to get a
How much is
cafeteria
it?
for wine tasting?
I know.
Come on.
How much is a draft beer gonna be on Thursday nights? But so yes, between the COA and myself, we've given them all the restrictions that we think would cover us. COA was much more concerned about it. I think they get used for different events a little bit more than us. So,
Wine and beer only.
yeah, that's a whole nother piece. Yeah,
Yeah, as I'm saying, who
Yes.
also the license, like the licensed servers and.
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and then there's police presence. There's all kinds of
I'm sure that's
specifics.
something in the
Yeah.
bylaws.
Yeah,
So you're thinking it would be library events only?
I do.
Library
Yeah.
events,
I do. Yeah,
So nobody could come in and use the space for.
Right.
No,
right. So
agree with that.
yeah, that I don't, and I think that's enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I will, I'll talk to the town administrator and try to get an update on that. Just looking at the statewide level, I'm still one of the co-chairs of the Mass Library Association's Advocacy and Legislative Committee. We have found new sponsors for both, the ebook legislation and the freedom to read legislation. Those are the anti-censorship, bills. We also we're also working with a lobbyist this year, specifically on the book banning bills. We're working with Every Library, which is a library advocacy group, and Penguin Random House is helping to fund a lobbyist for us specifically. We've already met with them several times. They've gotten sponsors for the bills. And we're moving ahead a little bit more strongly. Both of those bills ended up in Ways and Means. So they made it all the way through like the sausage making machine, got to Ways and Means and got stuck there along with, like 95% of everything else. So we want to get past that. This year we've got, because we already have a committee approved language, we're optimistic we'll move a little bit ahead in that. And then just for Old Colony right now, there's a bunch of stuff going on with the Old Colony Library Network. We are looking at a new software for Old Colony, so it would be new on the patron side, new on the staff side. We haven't changed in 12 years, I think. I will say this, so I'm chairing that task force. I was on the previous iteration of it. There are other softwares very similar to what OCLN uses. None of them are necessarily like way better. Some are more expensive and a little better, but there's also the pain of training hundreds of library staff and then tens of thousands of patrons. So we got to weigh all of those different things. We had our first meeting last week. There's a lot of things we'd like to see improved on the staff side as well as the public side. So that's gonna happen, and they'll have a recommendation to OCLN by June. If it changes, it would start a year from July. So I'll let you people all know about that. And the other thing they're looking at is the assessment. This is how they determine how much each library pays to OCLN every year for these services. So we're talking about how we break that up. It's a complicated formula, and also increasing the idea of increasing OCLN fees to include some of the things that we all already buy ourselves, like whether it's a subscription to the online Wall Street Journal, or if it's part like Hoopla or other things like that, if we put them into a shared OCLN versus buying them separately as part of that conversation. The director of Hull is leading that, Brian DeFelice, but I'm also on that task force, and that everything's happening at OCLN all at once, and that's that. And then the other thing I want to mention, and it'll check off of one of the other agenda items, which is the welcome packet. We're moving forward with a software called Patron Point, which is part of the same family that is doing the new calendars, LibCal, the new calendar system for the library. What this does, and we are in the first steps of this, and I've met with members of the Friends to talk about part of this as well. This sends out welcome emails to every new library user, and you set up, it's kind of, don't get annoyed by it right away, but it's the kind of the same thing that like businesses will use, like if you give them your email, so that you'll get an email welcoming you the first day, maybe 3 days later, we'll send an email that says, hey, we also do programs. We have online ebooks, and we have a Friends of the Library. So we have to determine how many messages we want to send total, not like per week like other companies do. But is it one a week for the first month, and then we let it go? We could also see better the return rate on people. So we're going to start working with that as our initial digital welcome packet. And I just wanted to remind people that Dennis Lehane is less than a month away, February 6th. My mother's birthday. Come out and celebrate with Dennis. And then Grace Lynn is coming in March. I can't remember the date now. It might also be March 6th, but Grace Lynn is the children's author that's coming out. And Grace Lynn's going to be she's going to have an exhibit at the Eric Carle Museum coming up in the spring. That's a big deal for children's authors and illustrators to be at Eric Carle out in I don't know if that's Amherst or Northampton. And I just wanted to point out, if you haven't looked or seen on social media, the last page of your packet should have kind of our year in review.
I thought that was great.
So that's good. Regan helped put this together. So we've been using it on social media and pushing it out there as our top 10 books and a bunch of the different statistics for the library for the year. It's on the homepage of the website right now, and we'll keep it there for a little bit longer. That's what I have for that.
Thank you. Thank you for going right to the agenda. Any questions for Will? Moving on, communications with library partner.
I have one question,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Did that woman ever call you back or contact you about, she wanted to do something in memory of my mom?
No.
Okay.
No. So we've shared with them ideas that, but we have not heard back.
Okay. And you're
That's been several months now. Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't mention the Little Free Libraries, but I've been working with Shannon from the Friends on the Little Free Library. So that's, we're working behind the scenes on that too. We brought them up last month.
Any quick update on the foundation, Paula? We all set.
Yeah, I'll set the Friends sent their raising letter out in December. We will send ours out. The foundation will send the annual fundraising letter out right after the speaker series to play on that. I get the 60 seconds at the speaker series to remind everybody how to support the foundation. Which is, of course, to go online right then, get out your phones right now, make a donation. Please put your names on the list over here, so you're on our mailing list, and then we'll hit them with the key donors receive an actual letter. Everyone else gets an email. We received 50 grand from the Copeland. Our annual donation from the Copeland came through, and the John and Mary Corcoran gave their annual $10,000 as well. So they're still supporting and very, very thankful for all this the foundation and the library is doing. And so, remember one of the questions was, if we damp down the foundation, will we lose some of the annual big checks we get? That has not been the case. Everything's fine. So all is well.
And I should have mentioned, Paul should have a pretty good audience. Dennis Lehane, right now we have 400 people registered for it. So that's at the high school on February 6th.
Awesome.
That's great. All right, moving on to new business, and we have some action items. In your packet was a policy review on arts rights policy.
That was one sentence.
One sentence, so I hope you had time to review it.
I was like, is this a policy?
I know, when I went to it, I was like, is this an actual policy?
No.
Yeah.
Any questions on the one sentence? If not, I'll take a motion to
I
approve
agree,
it.
yeah. So move.
All in favor?
Hi.
Moving on to the second policy, the safe child policy. Any questions about that one?
I'll just say, so I work on this with the Children's Department and with Teen Services Department. We just made some minor updates, so it was more in line with the overall behavior policy too. And we talked to other libraries about some of the age ranges in there, but it's a good thing for the staff to have as a backup, so.
Do you have children here that are too young to be left alone?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
All right, Chris motioned, anybody's? Thank you, Jamie. All in favor? Thank you. Believe it or not, it's time to talk about stack poll scholarships, and we have three individuals. Hopefully I can pronounce their name. Is it Dorian Abraham?
Dorian, yeah.
Victoria Lindern,
Yeah.
and then Ronan O'Connor. In the past, we have given 2,000 each.
Right.
I think last year we only had one, and the year
That's right.
before we had two. This
Yeah,
year
we
had
usually average about two.
two.
Yeah,
This year we have three, so.
Yes, yeah. Which will make next year difficult for the circulation and children's departments who've had these three who've been working for them for many years now at the library. I was talking to Jim earlier today, we haven't had as many, we've had less people last their whole high school career than we have had in the past. So this is a kind of a unique group that we have had three that are graduating this year. And they've been great. The staff can't say enough about them, so.
Do you believe this comes out of the general fund?
There's a stack poll fund,
Stack fund, okay.
which is getting low, but I think that we had talked about this at a previous meeting, that we'd use general fund to fill that void if needed.
So this would be 2,000 each, so it's total of 6,000.
That's right. And we would award, this is approving it now. I would let the high school know so that on awards night, they are recognized, but then we would invite them and give them the checks at probably our May meeting.
Usually it's in the May meeting, yes.
Do you know who funded that stack polls?
It was the family of a former employee, none of whom I believe live in town anymore. The employee passed away. This was way.
Let them know the money's.
Yeah, no, this was way.
I'd like to replenish.
This was way before my time or any of our times here. And I tried to find somebody once upon a time. I could talk to Dan again, but we were unable to, so. It's a small, it's a significant acknowledgement of their time at the library. And it's kind of a smaller amount to come out of our funds.
Yeah.
Any discussion or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Is there any other new business? Seeing none, All right, future meetings in February's committee meetings. Our next meeting is March 10th. I do leave in this room. And then for the March meeting, we'll have the building committee, the nominating committee, the personnel committee, and the treasurer's quarterly report. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, so, the art department, we haven't done much about it, of course, so it's going to the grounds. We're talking about putting up that little vase outside there in the building, and, nothing has been done about it, but people still talk to me about it, that they think it's incomplete, the library looks incomplete without,
That has run into the revolving door of consolidated facilities directors. Because Bill Ritchie had picked out a vase and then he left, and then Chris had picked out a vase and then he left. And I talked to Tom McCarthy about it not too long ago. We talked about it in the fall. And he had identified one that matches, but the coloring might be off. So the idea might be to get two new ones, remove the other one too. We'd have to get the DPW in with special equipment to get up there, but because we built the new ramp, that should be an easier project now. We're talking about the
Yeah.
ones that are facing Canton Ave, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
because,
yes,
it does look incomplete
yes,
without.
I agree with you guys.
And also in the art here, have we done any inventory in them lately?
Yeah, we have, we have an inventory that we did, and we put it up online as well. We have it as, in a database format as well, and it lists as much information as we know about it. Its provenance, when it was donated, and, where it is currently either being hung or stored. And we did do, within the last 5 years, maybe within the last 3, we had a new appraisal done of the entire collection, so we could update our insurance on it. Yes, yeah.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Meeting done.
Happy
Thank
New
you, guys.
Year.